On December 2nd, 2016, 36 people lost their lives in the ghost ship fire.
Derek Almina is the man who ran the so-called ghost ship. He is at the scene of the fire this morning and joining us now. Mr. Almina, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, 36.
It's not a good morning. It's not a good morning. What am I doing here? Can I just say I'm sorry? Can I just say...
Mr. Almina, let me ask you a couple of questions. 36 lives were lost in that building over the weekend. The family members of those who were lost want answers. They want to know who should be held accountable for their loss of their loved ones. Are you the man who should be held accountable?
Did I build something that with the I mean, what am I going to say to that? Should I be held accountable?
On June 5th, 2017, founder Derek Almina and event coordinator Max Harris were arrested for involuntary manslaughter.
It's been nearly 6 months since the deadly fire that claimed the lives of 36 individuals took place at an Oakland, California warehouse. According to BuzzFeed News on Monday, master tenant Derek Almina and warehouse tenant Max Harris were arrested for suspicion of 36 counts of manslaughter.
Many other spaces have been under inspection since, with several being shut down. And now, a word from the underground. My name is Zach Bateman. I'm a writer, musician, and performer, and most of all, I was born in the Bay Area and have lived here ever since. And as an artist from the Bay Area, I feel it's my duty to speak on this subject. Richmond, California, the place I grew up and spent most of my childhood. It's not known for much. Mainly, its crime rate, possibly its Chevron refineries, and once upon a time, this. The burnt ramen, where the real punks went, where judgment was left at the door. This is where any punk would flee to when they'd be caught drinking or smoking too much at a place like 924 Gilman. This was the scene in Richmond.
Hey, I'm Mikey Ramen. I'm the owner of Burnt Ramen Studios in Richmond. After the ghost ship fire, we've been forced out of our house by the mayor of our city. The mayor and his administration said that they were going to work with us, but they haven't really shown a whole lot of effort doing it. We're gradually getting a plan together so that we can return to our house and get things back to normal. It's been incredibly stressful for everyone involved. And I feel that the mayor of Richmond has misrepresented us. There's always going to be someone who's not accountable. By all accounts, the guy who was running the ghost ship was on a lot of methamphetamines and was not thinking clearly. He created a hazardous situation for everyone who is living there and everyone who's visiting. It's like we've made a great deal of effort to try and make this place as safe as we can. A big problem is that the DIY community exists underground. Legislators are passing laws all the time. The number of laws on the books is insane. It's like they feel like they have a duty to pass new laws all the time. No one can make sense of the laws. To bring any kind of DIY space up to code will make it unprofitable. Or like actually beyond unprofitable. It would just be a sinkhole of money that you just throw in trying to bring it endlessly up to code. So in other countries, I think they just say like, well, you have to take on a certain amount of risk if you're going to be a part of the underground community. They will, they will find out about you eventually. If you're going to have an underground venue, you're going to have people after you at a certain point. There's an incredible amount of drug addiction. There's an incredible amount of homelessness. There's dumping on a daily basis done here. There are people living in motorhomes and trailers all around this whole area. In any case, it's like there's nothing to do in Richmond. All the businesses have been chased off to Hilltop Mall. There's a few businesses that have stuck it out and come back. And I even volunteer at one business called Rich City Rides, the only bicycle shop in Richmond that caters to working class people. It's like we have nothing here. There was a bar, but it's gone because of red tape and legal requirements. There's just absolutely nothing for youth to do in this area. But they won't be able to stamp out the things that youth turn to. They won't be able to stamp out the gangs. They won't be able to stamp out the drug use, the graffiti. It's like, and the petty vandalism is that because youth will find something to do. They will find activities, and they're probably not ones that are going to be creative and cultural. So I view that as what I've tried to do is to create some kind of culture and community in a space where, in a city that is kind of devoid of it.
Currently, the people of Burnt Ramen are working on being able to return home. Whether or not they will continue to have shows after this has not been stated or suggested. The Clubhouse, home of the Phenomenauts, and host to some of the craziest, coolest, spaciest parties you will ever see in the Bay Area or your entire life.
Hi, I'm Angel Nova, and this is the Phenomenauts Clubhouse that we built over many, many years. When I first moved in, there had been people here for a year, and they were architecture students. So we kind of kept up with their keeping everything up to code and stuff like that the architecture students started, and then they all moved out, and then the Phenomenauts kind of moved in and kept it going and built all of what you see here. Well, we wanted to have a cool place to live, we wanted to have a cool place to practice, and then we wanted to have, like, play our band and have fans come and see it and friends come and see it. And so we made a stage, and the stage has a hot tub in it that's full of pillows right now because there was the drought and we haven't filled it up since then. And the stage has a curtain and stuff like we built all the stuff that we liked when we played at venues. Like, this place has a curtain, that's so cool. And then so we made a curtain on our own spot. It's interesting, and it's a place where different artists can come and do different things. We have all kinds of different music in here. We've had like film, like nights where they have all these different like filmmakers and stuff like that. It's a place for Oakland to express itself, and it's there are a lot of them are going away due to recent tragedies, and we luckily are, super solid when it comes to like fire safety and code and stuff, so we're fine, but we've seen a lot of them go away, and it's really, really sad. And they're turning one tragedy into two tragedies, and they're going to make Oakland more like San Francisco, where it's unaffordable and lame. We were concerned for a while that the property management, out of fear, was just going to throw everyone out who they knew was there, and ours knows we're here. And so we're like, oh, they're just going to, like knee-jerk reaction, everybody got to go, and find excuses to get rid of us. But they came in after, and they're like, all right, well, we need to make sure, we need to inspect you. And I'm like, all right, come on by. And they saw that we have sprinklers everywhere, and, like fire extinguishers everywhere. And so they're just like, okay, you guys are fine. I don't know. I appreciate that they're trying to save people's lives, and they're trying to stop, people from horrific things like the ghost ship. But, overreacting or, regulating is just, it's going to ruin, what makes Oakland cool, and it's not worth it. I feel like the people tend to regulate the other people instead of some bouncer being a jerk to you at the door. Someone will see you acting like an ass and be like, hey, don't act like an ass. This is all of our spot. So people I've seen amazing things where people were trying to tag inside my house and other people were like throwing them. They're like, this person was like, I'm like, oh, thank you for bringing that to my attention and for, tossing that person out. It's partly that the prices are so crazy that people live in spots like this, or at least artists do, because, artists can't afford an actual loft that that's big enough for them to do art in and that, also live in. When you're walking along and there's just all these warehouses and you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere in the warehouse district, and suddenly you open this door and it opens out into this amazing spot, there's something really cool you want to take your friends and be like, I know this really cool spot. And they're like, where are we? We're in the middle of the industrial area. You're like, yeah, hang on. And then you go into this thing and it opens up into this magical wonderland. Like that is, I don't know. I like when I know those spots, and I know a bunch of them. Come on. Like there's a group called Punks with Lunch that make, like 200 lunches for the homeless people every Sunday, and they also they do all sorts of other stuff. But every Sunday they come in here and they set up and they make all these lunches, and they do it here because we have extra tables and extra chairs that we've just acquired over the years, and we just set them all up, and they make them all in a couple hours, and they drive off and they go deliver them to all these homeless people. And in a regular house you just don't have the space for something like that, and so we're like, we've got the space, come on down. Yeah, if you're gonna build a warehouse into a live-work loft, make sure it's good and safe. Don't burn your dumb ass down and jeopardize my spot. Thank you.
The K Speakeasy. Tonight, we're invited to play here by my friend Victoria Victrola of the band Victoria and the Vaudevillains, and who some such as myself consider the Speakeasy Queen.
So I love tea, I love booze, and I love live music. So like, let's combine all three of these things into one glorious, magical, whimsical day. And somehow work, and with a lot of hard work from a lot of friends, like a lot of volunteers, this community of people who can thrive on this event. And there's just something about throwing a successful event too that just makes you really happy to see people enjoying the music and drinking the tea, and the tea with the booze in it. And, yeah, it's really, I'm really blessed to know so many amazing musicians.
This is by far one of my favorite places to play ever, period. In fact, I love playing here so much, I think I'm gonna say that again in this stupid clip that someone decided to leave in. And here's this guy. Hey everybody, we're at like my favorite place to play ever. The rest of the band now. Yeah, it's like my favorite speakeasy, like just hidden gem in the band. So yeah, I'm super jazzed. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, check it out. It's pretty badass. Like these are like places that I don't know. These are the places that I enjoy playing as a performer way more than any conventional venue ever. So, yeah. Yeah, penises.
I also throw an event called Secrets and Joys, and it's a place, it's at the same space as a tea party, and people come and they write down the secrets and we read them out loud, and they're generally more on the humorous side, so it's always a good time.
Thank you all for coming out tonight to the second Secrets and Stories ever. So, if you don't already know, we're asking people to write down secrets and put them in this bucket over here because we're going to read them out loud. In fact, I will demonstrate such a thing at this moment. I need two hands to read secrets. Sometimes I put used condoms in my bedside drawer because I'm too lazy to walk to the wastebasket. That's a good one. Okay, so, yeah, please write down your secrets. Put them in the thing. We will read them out loud. You can write more than one. You can write 20. Yeah, so anyway, tonight I am very excited about the band playing. They are some of my favorite local acts. And up first, we're going to have Zach Bateman.
Always a great time, always good company, if you know the address, and if you know the password. Oakland Secret. A place for art, a place for the community, and yes, a place for fashion. Today we're here speaking with Anne-Marie Bustamante, who is the founder of the Bay Area clothing line, Casually Uncommon. This is not a bathroom for the self-conscious. At all. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Anne-Marie Bustamante. I'm a fashion designer. I focus on sustainable fashion. I do a lot of upcycling. This means that I take fabrics or repurpose curtains, couches, pillows into stuff that is now fashion versus going to the store and buying all brand new stuff. I upcycle. I kind of take trash and turn it back into something that we can wear. I make everything myself. I'm completely anti-sweatshop. I'm anti doing stuff overseas, even though it's more affordable and it would make me more money. I like to counter that, and I think a lot of people in the Bay Area are big on that change. They're backing that change, and they're going to follow suit so that we can get this industry in the right direction. My friend did a Mexican diaspora art exhibit here. It was amazing. And then I was a vendor. I did some designs inspired by my ancestry. So I have Nicaraguan, El Salvadorian ancestors who were in San Francisco in the 60s. So I did a huge, we have these giant billowing pants and these crop tops, and I did that here. And then I met the woman who lives here and the curator of these events, and it's incredible. They host you for free and you give back to them. It's very communal and it's insane. It's unlike anything else, unlike any other event that you've ever seen. They literally live here, but it's a venue. It's very rough because it's so expensive to live here. I can easily imagine the appeal of squeezing so many people into almost a workshop area. But it is beautiful how Oakland's come together, and there's so many events to help the families, to stop that from happening again, to get the landlords more on top of it, because there's some shady landlords all over the Bay as prices are rising and people are more desperate. We need more rent control. We need more just employment options for creatives or just for everyone. There's lots of people that are rallying, and yeah, we just keep getting pushed out. In September, I'm moving into a living room, and that's the way that I can afford the city. I shared a studio with my roommate who's here right now for this whole summer. Before that, I lived in Vallejo and commuted to SF every day for work. So we make it work, but yeah, SF is impossible now. In Oakland, they voted last year, they promised that they're going to put funding towards affordable housing. We haven't seen that come into fruition yet, so we have to keep putting pressure on them to follow their word, to use the tax dollars to actually help us. You can get a $20 shirt that was handmade here in Oakland, sourced in Oakland, and that can last you a long time. Take care of your clothes. Don't wear them and give up on them when the trend is over. So we got to start thinking differently. Thank you for supporting us. I'm loving, there's almost this art renaissance in Oakland right now. It's just such a hub for all different, music, painters, designers, models, actors. It's gorgeous to see, especially after San Francisco has changed so much in the past 5 years. It's just very inspiring, and I love that it exists, and I'm so blessed to be here right now. And thank you for Oakland Secret hosting me. It's just incredible what people are doing.
I'm Jamie DeWolf. I'm a writer and performer from Oakland, California. My goal of starting something like Tourette's was actually to create the kind of show that I never had when I was growing up, that was pretty much open to any kind of free expression that there was, and really sort of smash genres and flip them on their heads. So intermixing poets with rappers, burlesque with circus acrobatics, with beatboxers and breakdancers. And so to me it was just showcasing a lot of underground art that didn't really collide in regular venues. And so for me it was just putting together a lot of my favorite art forms all together in one big demolition derby and just kind of see what happened. I had a lot of friends who lost friends in the fire, and so at first my reaction was just the the human tragedy, the fact that it was so preventable, that when you put on shows and you put them on in kind of renegade spaces, there's all different kinds of dangers. There's dangers in terms of not having security, of fights breaking out, of aspects like that. But when it comes down to the fundamental mechanics of a venue and safety itself, it's horrifying. The fact that there are so many preventable steps along the way that could have made it an impossibility for it to happen. There's going to be any kind of incidences that are forces of the fates or when lightning strikes, but this is not one of them. I would like all cities to accept the fact that underground art is going to happen, and that underground art, like painters need a gallery, that performers and bands and freak show performers and breakdance, that all performers need a place to perform, the same as painters who need a gallery in order to exhibit their works, and that underground art will always find a way to do it. I think it's scary to a lot of the powers that be. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of momentum around that, and I think that that can be terrifying. And I think that you start entire movements that way. You start entire political actions, you start all of that. They come out of venues. All sinners need their church. And so when you shut down the church, your sinners just got to roam wild. And what happens is that they'll create that church if they have to on their own. And so I think some of this is being honest and acknowledging that and trying to listen to all the voices that want to be heard and actually giving space for that. I think any night that you go out and you are paying admission, whether it's in a bucket or whether it's at a box office or whether it's ordered online, but that you're paying admission to go see live performance out, that you're going and paying admission to go see live underground art, but that in itself is basically a statement of defiance, that you are supporting the arts by even being there, that you're actually part of something larger than yourself, and you can't discount that. You can't discount the power of you just being in the audience, giving these artists your energy back, and that we need to do more of that. I mean, it's that we need to be out and supporting any kind of live performance art. Like, I mean, if you're about it, then be the fuck about it. Like, be there, be present, and make something happen, because that's how it starts. So, show the fuck up.
So, here we are gathered tonight in fragrant Soma for this very special night of live band burlesque. We have gorgeous burlesque dancers backstage ready to come out here to perform with the band. Do you want to see that?
Hi, I'm Jim Sweeney, also known as Kingfish. I'm the MC and producer for Hubba Hubba Review, world famous burlesque and variety show from San Francisco and Oakland.
And what was the initial goal with putting it together?
Well, oh boy. All right, so we're going to try to give you the Reader's Digest version. It all started with warehouse parties at our friend's warehouse in the East Bay in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Then DNA Lounge at one point said, hey, you guys want to do a show? We have an open Saturday. My friend Eddie Dane was like, let's do this thing called Hubba Hubba Review. Then it became quarterly, and then 2 times in it became monthly. So that's how we got started. There wasn't ever any plan. There's a million ways to stay home nowadays, between streaming TV on your computer and video games and everything else under the sun. And everything's more expensive and it's harder to get everywhere because of traffic, but you know what? If you want to have it, you got to show up. Show up, show up, show up, buy a damn ticket. That's what you got to do to support your scene. On one hand, I think that there is a renaissance of live performance in the Bay Area. I think that groups like Vaudeville Society, events like the Edwardian Ball that started like 10, 15 years ago, I think those things have created a culture of live performance, not just bands. Bay Area has always had great music. Now, we've obviously had a lot of new people move into the area in the last few years, and where they came from, maybe that's not the case. But I believe very heavily in the freak flag going past your window is going to eventually make those people see it and want to be a part of it. And I think that has already started to happen.
And what brought you into that culture?
Well, mostly alcohol. Eventually I got jumped in to helping out. And then, of course, the next thing you know, after you're helping out, is you're part of it, and then some years down the line, you're running it. But really, we've got more show. Do you want it? Where do you want me? Mr. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I'd like to see more young people getting their hands on the controls. That seems to be getting harder and harder to do because it's so expensive to live here. We no longer get the waves of annual crashing waves of young people moving into the Bay Area year after year after year. That's slowed down to a trickle. But at the same time, I'm 52 years old, and a lot of people I know in this business who run things are middle 40s to early 50s, and we can't do it forever. And there has to be a next generation and a generation after that. And I hope that people are given the opportunities by venues, by other shows, by whatever, to get their hands on and get it done themselves. And I hope that that fosters more generations of this to come. So much about entertainment in the last few years has been squeezed down and made angsty and made very, just not social, not big, not explosive. Whereas Tourette's and Hubba, those are two shows that, there's no angst on this. This is just fun. It's big, it's expansive, it's welcoming. You walk into Tourette's and you're instantly part of the party. You can be on stage at Tourette's when you sign up to do poetry or rap or whatever. Same kind of thing as that with Hubba is, you walk into Hubba, you're part of Hubba. And I think that is one of the most important things that this kind of entertainment brings. Leave your anxiety at the door and just cut loose and have fun and be free. But if you're going to be in a place that's alive and happening and engaged, then be a part of it and show up. Even if your part of it is just to go there and buy a drink, do that. That's my closing statement.
Nice. Sweet, thanks, man.
Yeah, you bet.
My name is Jello Biafra, and I came out here and last day of February 1978. But it's a lot tougher now, and naive kids who are just chasing a dream and doing all kinds of cool things when they're too young to know better, like run for mayor in my case when I was 21. I mean, you don't get as much of that now because it's so hard to survive. Well, of course, the ghost ship fire hit everybody very, very hard. Barrett Clark, who just started to work as the sound mixing guy for my band, Guantanamo School of Medicine, he died in that fire. He was one of the first people identified, and I was just beginning to know him. And then there was the memorial fundraiser at the Metro that my band played, and there was a little, shrine is the wrong word, but there were pictures of people who died and candles, and I saw people who could have been me, not just at that age, but at my age too. I mean, this could have happened to anybody, and it never should have happened at all. And so one thing I took from that I said on stage that night is one of the best ways to remember and pay respects to the innocent people who lost their lives in the ghost ship fire is from now on, every event you go to, every venue, and not just ghost ship type places, but commercial music clubs or city buildings, whatever, always know how you can get out. I mean, some cities have tried to be constructive about this. Some have been destructive, including Oakland and San Francisco, which in some ways may pale in comparison to what happened to what was called the Rhino Glob Collective in Denver, where people living in the space were thrown out in the street in the middle of the night in 10-degree weather. I think there's other ways to try and solve this problem. Clearly the owners of the ghost ship building who own other ones, they may not have even looked very carefully inside in years. I don't think it's a bad thing to require not tenants but owners to put in sprinklers and get their electricity situation together, which the ghost ship people were claiming they had complained to the landlord about that problem for years, and all they ever got when they got a response was a rent increase. There is a law, as I understand it, in New York City called the 2010 Loft Law, which means Mayor Bloomberg, of all people, let this thing go through, where it does require the owners to bring buildings up to code, and then let the people who have been displaced have first dibs on moving back in under rent control. I mean, of course, some people just live in a place like this because they don't have the money for anything else, and regardless of all the lies of the Trumpists that homeless people actually want to be that way, I mean, I don't think anybody wants to be stuck in a tent as all the traffic roars by under a freeway bridge and it's pissing down rain and they've got a puddle where they're trying to sleep and it's cold. This shouldn't be happening in this country. And I'm so damn old, I remember when it wasn't happening in this country. We shit on our most vulnerable population so badly. And that even doesn't just apply to like neo-Nazi Trump supporters. I mean, the City Hall in San Francisco has been really, really mean about that as long as I can remember. And you want to see their solution for this? Here's this bourgeois magazine that found its way into my garage. San Francisco, there's a man in a nice suit. And here's some rich people hanging out with each other. And it's the future metropolis. And they have something, and they claimed this was like in reference to the ghost ship fire and whatnot. What's the name of this? Communal, I can't find the other lettering, but there's this thing, look at all the nicely organized spools of thread, and they talk about all these living spaces, but then I realized, hey, wait a minute, all they're talking about, isn't this great? This artisan woman can rent a table space for $750 a month. And it began to occur to me after a while, none of this has anything to do with where people can live. There's a meeting, city council, show up and be prepared to talk succinctly and bluntly and persuasively, rather than name-calling, that this is what needs to be done. Bring in examples to show, hey, wait a minute, just throwing vulnerable people in the street so you can gentrify buildings is not going to make your city more desirable to live in. There's a better way to do this, and here's some examples of how. If you want new culture, the spark, the creative flow, the adrenaline, just knowing you're in a place when something's going on, you have to have places where the people who make that stuff can make that stuff. and some twit at a tech party telling the Chronicle, hey, these days the summer of love is a startup. That is not the solution. That is the problem.
I am Jesse Townley, aka Jesse Luscious, and I was chair of the Berkeley Rent Board for the past 2 years. I work at KALX Berkeley, and we had 4 of our current or recent volunteers die in that fire. So it really hit everybody pretty hard. People here have been threatened by landlords for being in quote-unquote illegal spaces, live-work spaces, whatever you want to call them. One of our interns actually got evicted and has thankfully found a new place. In my work with the city, as chair of the rent board, I'm part of something called the 4x4 committee, which is 4 members of the city council, including the mayor, and 4 members of the rent board, including the chair. And we formed an ad hoc committee called, I had to read it because it's long and bureaucratic, the Ad Hoc Committee on Safety, Occupancy, and Affordability of Converted Artist Warehouses and Workspaces. Say that one time fast. But basically the idea is that we're trying to figure out how in Berkeley we can safeguard our creative spaces for safety reasons, for affordability reasons, for creativity reasons, to keep Berkeley. One of the main things that we found so far in our ad hoc committee on safety, occupancy, and affordability of converted artist warehouses and workspaces is there's a huge problem with something called Costa-Hawkins. Costa-Hawkins is the law that was passed, I think, in '95 that basically severely restricts rent control. New rent control laws being put into effect in the state of California. It's a statewide law. As part of it, it has a bit in it about certificates of occupancy. Those are what are issued to buildings or spaces when they change from one use to a new use. So if you have, in this case, a warehouse that's been a warehouse space zoned for business for however many decades, then the owner comes in and says, I'm going to make it a residential space. I'm going to upgrade it and do all the permits, and because residential spaces have much higher safety standards than mere warehouses and businesses, kind of for obvious reasons. So Costa-Hawkins mandates that when there's a new certificate of occupancy, it means that it becomes a vacancy decontrol event, which means that whatever rent was being paid, legally or illegally, the rent can now be charged, can now be raised to market, or whatever the market will bear. So we're trying to find some creative workarounds. This is a memo from the City of Berkeley's Building and Safety Division from 2000, basically saying that anytime that something changes from one use to another, they have to, under state law, issue a new certificate of occupancy. So this is kind of what we're dealing with. And the people in the planning department, they don't have anything against DIY spaces. As long as people are safe, great, whatever, Building inspectors and fire marshals have lives outside when they wear their uniforms, A lot of them might be artists, a lot of them might go to shows, a lot of them, art shows or music shows or whatever shows. So that's been kind of my message to the community, is we need to figure out a way where your trust won't be misplaced.
Yeah, I lost a dear friend, and somebody who was a great contributor to the music community here in Oakland and in the Bay Area. Barrett Clark is his name. I had a fire at the warehouse I was living at, which was the third rendition of what we always called punks with presses, which later on people were just calling AK Press. It's to me it's really sick, and to have witnessed the kind of regulatory hammer being swung by the powers that be, from all angles. They're corrupt as shit. They're addicted to money. Fuck the city of Oakland. Fuck Mayor Chafe, or whatever her name is. I'm a punk rocker, and I see right through these motherfuckers. I personally don't want to work with them. I don't see any use for them, and all they're going to do is take advantage of us and try to make way for their developers. They want to make Oakland the next Walnut Creek. When I don't mean to bring it back to me, but when the fire happened in our building, they were telling us we would not be displaced. They were telling us we were going to have help, we were going to have aid, and as soon as the cameras were off, it was just crickets. Like nobody cared. It's all about political positioning, and they really have no care for the arts, although they'll claim they do. Like my first-hand experience to the situation was when my warehouse burned. The punks stood up and really took care of everybody affected, and whether it was Green Day putting a benefit on for us at Gilman, or just countless people putting up the GoFundMe. We seem to be able to take care of our own pretty well, and we've always been able to regulate or to govern our own. I think any sort of regulation by the city, in my opinion, just seems to be exploited and for us to be taken advantage of. A lot of us as artists feel this way, that our purpose in life is to create art. Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. If it touches one person, then fantastic. If it never does, at least you tried, I think that getting involved, staying true to your convictions and your values, and not buckling under pressure of the city. We need to band together more. We need to stop being so fractaled into our weird little subcultures of snobbery and snubbing one another.
Hello, my name is Najee Amaranth. I represent the Oakland Mind.
There goes that group, right? I'm feeling it. So it's Oakland Mind Thursday. Rewind and we're all back. Yeah, represent that cushion. Back to Africa, black and deny a fact. Seeing it in the spot. Yo, this kid is back, removing tight. Take your chin, like give me that.
Whatever you want to call it, I'm just here to help people out. My original goal is my current goal, which is to bring the Oakland music scene together. Because what Oakland Line really does in reality, beyond just like performing music and presenting music, is creating a culture like through the use of music and art that provides space for people to express themselves honestly and openly. And not just express themselves, but hold themselves in the highest integrity. And I think that that's something that is really lacking in a lot of places in our community, and it exists and flourishes within the stratosphere of the Oakland Mind. A close friend of mine's roommate, who I've met several times, he actually lost his life in the ghost ship tragedy, and we've been doing a lot of events to help his mom fundraise so that she can do what she needs to do for him, and so that his legacy can live on and be strong. I mean, the city needs to invest more in arts, okay? They need to invest in schools and bring art programs back to schools, especially in the OUSD system, okay? They need to invest more in education. They need to take money out, right, of police, because the budget for the police here in the city is over $2 billion a year. That's ridiculous. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's like there's more guns in the police department than there is people, in the city of Oakland. Okay, there's only a couple thousand people in the city of Oakland. We do not need that much in police. We need that in schools. We need that invested in the programs that are going to actually help people. We need housing that is affordable. Okay, we need jobs that pay well enough to live in this city. Minimum wage needs to be at least $15, and that's actually not much anyways, but $12 is not enough, okay? Straight up. See, we are the Oakland Mind. We find what is divine, and we never fall behind. And we understand that all things in this life take a little bit of time. We inspire creativity and diversity by bringing all these rhymes. We cipher on the streets, with or without beats, sometimes live music and other times melodies. These are things that we need, because down here in these streets, there are people around my neighborhood who still can't eat. How do we give our support, you ask? Besides spitting this gas, we sit and we make community, and the kind of community to last. We give our support and we give our minds, we give our times, because we can't turn eyes that are blind. And we understand what it means and what it takes to be wise.
Well, I think that there are two things that you can do, mainly. One is use your music as an influence for positive change, and two, outside of your music, work towards positive change, you know? And whether that is teaching in schools, whether that is working with youth, whether that is going to the city and being in these meetings and contributing your ideas, contributing your thoughts, and making sure that the city does what the city is supposed to do. I mean, stay open-minded and open-minded.
There's only one fantastic Negrito in the world, and I'm here today to talk about some things that matter.
We sleep amongst the children. We sing them in our song. Let's try to get along. Burn, rape, and kill them village. They had to have it all. We choke on the exhaust. We are innocent.
It hit pretty hard, and it hit pretty close to home because it's something that I've been doing since, I think, 1987. And I was a very, very young teenager, and I decided to live in a work space. A bunch of guys together on 32nd and San Pablo. And that's why on my album, The Last Days of Oakland, if you look, it says 32nd and San Pablo Avenue, because that was the beginning. It was the introduction of a lifestyle, an alternative lifestyle, living in industrial workspaces, so that one could pursue their artistic endeavors and dreams. And I really didn't live in a house or an apartment until about 8 years ago. And also there were people that actually were like shooting an interview like a week before that happened, right in this room, that perished. And there's other people that play in my touring band knew that perished. So if you want to know why the Bay Area is so great, it's because creative, progressive people that thought outside the box made it great. You take those people out and you know, you really don't have an Oakland or a Baltimore or a Brooklyn or a DC. You got something else. I think if things are regulated in a way that's fair and makes life affordable and accessible to artists, then the regulation can be fine. The regulation is shrouded in trying to gentrify and get people out, artists out of there, then it's bad regulation. So that's a word that can go either way. Both sides. I've heard some people that have reacted negatively, some landlords, and tried to get artists out. And I've heard good stories. So I'm hopeful. Mine is definitely a good story. I didn't know how the landlord would react, but she reacted extremely positive. You know, my entire existence and history was living in workspaces and then having my band and bands perform there, because you could make a living that way rather than going to a club and just giving up everything. It took going and playing in front of Colonial Donuts at 3 a.m. It took playing at all the BART stations. took playing in front of what was then High Life Pizza, which is now the Hatch, on 14th and Webster, like every Wednesday. That was my gig. And it took playing here once a month. And I think that's why these venues are extremely important, these spaces, because they are an outlet to something that may be kind of different that people could be overlooking. I mean, in those 4 years, I've won Tiny Desk. I travel the world, and I won a Grammy. So there you go. Why? Because the people of the Bay Area said, "That's cool. That's great. You're playing on 25th and Broadway. You got a generator. This is awesome. I'm gonna come play in my space." It took the community made the decision, not club promoters, not record companies, none of that. So these spaces are just vital for the development of artists. One thing about music, I think that it transcends a lot of bullshit. And I don't think about race. That's other people's problem. I don't think about it. I'm very aware that that thing is out there, but I think when you're playing music and you're connecting with people, that just goes away. I could speak to, especially being a little bit older, especially people in the Bay Area, I like to say, hey, the standard is high. There's some great movements and great music that came out of here, and I think living in the Bay Area, we really have a responsibility, because some bad motherfuckers came out of here. People that were very original, people like E40, people like Metallica, people like Too Short, people like Santana, people like Green Day, people like Creedence Clearwater Revival, like Keisha Cole, like Tony. You can go down the list of amazing bands that have come out of here, and they were people that set trends. They're people that are like, we're gonna do our thing. And I think the Bay Area has to remember who they are, is that we're a pretty amazing tribe of people from all different walks of life. And we all come together, and it's beautiful. And I feel like artists, and I feel it myself, I'm like, man, Sly Stone came out here, oh shit, I got some work to do. It's great, and it's hard work, and we have a lot to be proud of here. It's an amazing city, scene, culture, and that's what I like to say.
I knew so many of the people in the Ghost Ship fire. One of the things that was really special for me is that because I've kind of met so many of these people through the art and music scene, like we bonded over what I feel like in a lot of ways was most passionate for them. And it was always really fascinating to learn about what people did like in their day jobs and stuff. They had these whole other lives that I had like no idea about, and I feel like it's kind of like seeing somebody's dark underbelly, but it was like their beautiful, passionate underbelly. Like it made me want to go search out people and like get to know them more that were in my community, like more than just I see you at the shows all the time, more than I know you, you know me, like actually like spend more time with people in my community that like they probably don't even know how much I admire them or how they inspire me. And I think I've heard that sentiment a lot. My girlfriend Kevin, she says she does hug therapy since Ghost Ship, and I love the sentiment behind that, and that she says we're over handshakes. The handshake is dead. Like, give me a hug. Like there was this sense after it of like every friend that you saw, you're just like so grateful to see them. I think that there's got to be a way in which communities, these DIY spaces can work with the city. However, that really will have to take people who in the city who are super open to thinking outside of the box, and that not just say it, but like kind of walk the walk in terms of like recognizing how the creativity in this city has really been the lifeblood of it. I just think that it's relying on your DIY community to, so to speak, police or oversee, infrastructures like that is tough. But I highly encourage people to just take on that task because, it's the only way we're going to keep, really, I hate to say it, but like the problem makers out of it who are going to want to come in, which is often the city, who are going to want to come in and help make things safer, but really it ends up displacing more people and, creating more problems. Like they haven't solved anything. Where I live, I literally could see the smoke from 3 different fires. One right there under the overpass, like the homeless folks. One over there from like the new condos that were coming up that somebody set on fire again for the second time right over there. And then like the space that was right near a ghost town gallery over on San Pablo. Right in the heart of it, I'm watching these places fucking like go up in flames over and over again. They're not doing anything. They've made no changes. They're not doing anything but making things more difficult for the people that they like say they're trying to protect, but really are just being they're scapegoats. The artists are the ones that get praised, get memorialized, but also, end up taking the fall in a lot of ways. I think that I have never felt like I had a home until I lived in Oakland, and I really loved some of those people. I mean, I loved all of them, but some of them really inspired me and will forever be in my heart. And just be safe. Try not to let it happen again by being aware yourself. Like, you can't rely on anyone in this life. Like, you can only rely on yourself. So if you see something that doesn't feel right, just say something, do something, because it might save all of our friends' lives. And beyond that, I just love them all so much, and I know that somehow they feel that. So.
And did you start the Kiyomi Scholarship Fund?
I did not start it. Her family contacted Mills, which is her alumni. After she passed, they thought it would be a good idea to open up a scholarship that various students, specifically women in the arts, who may someday be a lot maybe as ambitious and amazing as Kiyomi was. It's pretty big shoes to fill, but it's pretty much was opened by her family to facilitate funding women in the arts at Mills.
Nice. And how did the incident affect your life and a lot of the spaces that you work in and or work with?
I mean, there's in a multitude of ways, for sure. I think it took a while for a lot of people to decompress from it and sort of settle into the reality of what had happened. But then there's other people who found some way simultaneously, found the strength to do the work that needed to be done almost immediately. Let's be real, it wasn't just about the Bay Area. There's spaces being closed in Baltimore, spaces being closed all over the country, in Portland, the list goes on. But primarily it was affecting DIY spaces who, I think most of us understand, but it's really hard to impart to people who are politicians, city politicians who haven't been in and around these spaces and realize that these are the artists that make the Bay Area what it is. And Ghost Ship was definitely an outlier. It was the least safe warehouse space I'd ever seen. To anyone who's watching, or to pretty much anyone who's still making art and feeling a little bit discouraged or under fire and not as motivated as they used to be, because there's a lot of, people are losing a lot of hope. People are sort of kind of trying to reset and decompress, just keep fucking making stuff and carry on these people's memories as much as you can, and because, I mean, if there's anything that I feel like I should be doing, it's not sitting around feeling sorry for myself, because that's 100% of the people who passed away, that's all they did. They didn't do anything but make and like move forward. So I feel like moving forward in whatever way you can personally and collectively is important. And yeah, I think these spaces are going to survive, but in a different way. And as long as we do the work to make sure that happens, which a lot of people are, I personally can't as much as some people, because I'm just way too emotional to really like get involved in politics. But find your niche and just keep doing it.
Yeah. And have you guys had any experiences at like warehouse venues or like artist living spaces?
Oh yeah. That was the main. Those are the main spots to where when you can't, book a gig at a club or can afford to get into a club or something, and you got these spots, I like to call them. I mean, that keeps everything. Kept me inspired, so they are important.
Keeps art alive, I think. There's like a place where you can go and get it in, whether it's a gig or a workshop or they're usually crashing,
They're usually the coolest spots.
Yeah, because everybody chips in. Everybody puts in, like if you got some food and there's somebody in there that it becomes a community, a microcosm of what a utopia could look like, I think.
It reminded me of how blessed I am and put things back in perspective. Because me as an artist and a musician and my close ones around could have been there at any time. At any time. So it was a tragedy, and it made me readjust my thinking and recognizing how blessed I am to be here.
Hey there, my name's Ashley Gould. I'm an Oakland musician and tattoo artist. One time, my friend Ara, who was unfortunately one of the ghost ship victims, she would always come into my work on 40th Street, and one day I was working by myself. It was really busy, and she came in, and it was super cool to see a familiar face. And I was just talking with her and mentioning that I was really stressed, I was tired, I was hungry, and she's like, "Hey, I'll go home and I'll make you some soup and I'll bring it to you." And I was like, "Oh, really? Oh, okay." And I didn't really think anything of it. A little time passed, and she brought back this amazing homemade soup for me that was like vegetables and just super yummy, and it was really sweet of her. And she would always do things like that. You never really had to ask anything of her. She just did stuff for people that was amazing and thoughtful.
So, here we are, 2017. Hanging on to the threads of hope we have left that things will change. As politicians and government officials say one thing and do another, while we watch the tent cities pop up and grow due to just how impossible it is to afford living out here. Artists forced out of their homes, trying to make a living, maybe just trying to live. We hang on to these threads of hope because we have to. We have to believe that our art will outlast us, that we will be remembered. We have to believe that our lives are worth more than just some new condo or strip mall. We are the creators. We are the ones that push the change. The ones that hold the thread and pull it little by little to unravel whatever beauty we can find in whatever city we live. We are the community, the collective. We love, we laugh, we find solace in one another's past and present. We share the common bond of creativity through pain and strife. We're the color to the trees, the shape of the clouds, the candle in the window that invites and welcomes others who have been otherwise cast out. We deserve the time, we deserve the space, and we all deserve to live. Don't forget about us. Don't push us out. Because in the end, we need you, and make no mistake, you sure as hell need us. We are the underground, and we'll always find a way.
Teeth and scales.